Welcome to Clouds.training. This is part 6 of OOPS Concepts training program. In this lesson, we will learn about events and delegates. What is an event? An event is a message sent by an object when a certain action is occurred. That means if we are clicking a button, we are raising an event, button click event. If we are changing a value of a drop-down list, we are changing the property and hence we are raising property changed event. So the class that sends the event is called a publisher and the class that receives the event is called a subscriber. It works as a publisher and subscriber model. Event basically follows observable design pattern. We will discuss about the details of design patterns and how we're going to implement in our project in our future lessons. To declare an event in a class, we use the keyword called event. And to raise an event, we will invoke a delegate. To subscribe to an event, we can use plus or equal to operator, or to unsubscribe, we will use minus or equal to operator. So now what is a delegate? A delegate is a type that holds a reference to a method. Let's look at an example of how we can deal with the events. For this, I will be using the same solution from our previous lesson. Here I have created a simple .NET Console C# application. In this, we will see an example. The requirement here is to raise an event based on a certain threshold in a loop. So to achieve this, let's create a class and name the class as threshold reached event args, and it is derived from event args class. This is a .NET framework event arguments class which holds the data of an event. And let us add some two properties. One is threshold and one is time it has reached. Since our requirement is to identify the threshold and raise the event, we are creating these two properties. Let's create another class called counter. In this, we will create event handler with the class that we have created here as an argument. We will use this in our onThresholdReached method. Create onThresholdReached method and pass this event args as a parameter. In this, let's create event handler and assign threshold reached to this handler. If this handler is null, is not equal to null, then we should raise this event. Now let's create another two properties. One is threshold and another one is total, and create a constructor of this class with the required threshold. We are going to pass this threshold explicitly from our main program. So now let's create another method which adds a particular value to this total. So now we will add a condition to check if this total is greater than the threshold that we have created in the constructor. Then we will assign our threshold and time reached properties from threshold event args that we have created here, and we will trigger onThresholdReached method. So this will be triggered once a total is greater than or equal to this threshold, and hence we have this threshold reached. We can now raise the event using our handler. Now we are done with the class creation. So now let's add the code in our main program. So we will create one static method c underscore threshold reached. This is the event that we are going to trigger when a threshold is reached. So for this, the requirement for the event is we need to have a sender, and threshold event args which holds the event data. So let's print this to console, add the default code to stop the console here, and this is the event that we are going to trigger from our main method. Now let us create a class with the constructor that we have here. For that, we need to pass a threshold. So when we pass this threshold, it is being assigned to the property here. Now let's create the event. For this, if you remember, we have event handler which is called threshold reached. For this event handler, we are attaching the event c underscore threshold reached. Now let's add user interaction to this console by adding a while loop. Here we are checking console.read key is equal to 13. That means we are checking the enter key. You can change it to anything. So we are just checking whenever there is enter key pressed, what we are doing is we are going to add 1 to the class that we have here. Add, we are calling this class. If you remember, inside this class we are incrementing the total. So we are passing the value 1. So incrementing the total by this value that we have passed here. So this loop is running. Whenever we press enter, this loop will run and it will call this method. So the value of total is incremented. Now let's build the application and run. Now let's hit enter, adding 1, adding 1, adding 1. If you remember, we have given a threshold of 5. So once it has reached the threshold, it automatically triggered this event at this particular time. Now we have seen how we can use the events. But when it comes to delegates, uh, .NET Framework itself provides lot of options, and it has covered various scenarios to handle these events using event args and event args generic class. However, there are cases, very rarely used cases, where we need to consume delegates whenever there is a restriction of generics are not available, then only we will use the delegates. So we're not doing any example of delegates, but I'll just show you the syntax how we can create the delegate. To create a delegate, we need to use a delegate keyword and define like this. As we have discussed earlier, delegates are like intermediate helpers for the receiver and the senders. Let's comment this out. As always, we will upload the source code to GitHub repository. If you want, you can download the source from there and follow along the course. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.